a person to maintain composure and resist fear. You know, fear can be paralyzing, so you really have to resist fear when you think about it. When faced with difficult situations, fortitude, the strength of the mind that allows one to endure hardship, pain, and adversity. Well, we're happy to have someone on that was on a little while ago, come back again, that fits right inside of there. I'm talking about Fire Chief Shelly Carter. Welcome back to When Black Men Talk. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing really good, really good. Little busy. Life is crazy, being a mom, being a boss, but it's all well. I can't complain.
There it is. You know, let's go right to that, being a mom, because that's one thing we didn't really talk about last time when you were on. And you're a wife, you're a mother of
Hmm.
five sons, a blended family,
Yeah,
which are two exchange students.
yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. You know, what are the ingredients that you have to put all that together in an exemplary fashion that you have done and accomplished?
You know, I wanted sons. I prayed and I asked God for sons, and He granted me my wish. And so my boys are my life. They're the air that I breathe, and I often say that my husband is my heartbeat. And so I can't live without none of them, right? And so my boys are hardworking young men. They were raised in the church. We brought them up in the church, but we also taught them to be uh, folks who give in community and in society. So, not to be the ones that take all the time, but the ones that serve the community. I think part of that is based upon, of course, my career path and what I do, and realizing that it's important that our young people know that the world really does not evolve around them. And so my sons, I have five boys and two exchange student sons. So my house was, for many years, were filled with boys and sneakers and football pads and basketball shoes. And I have a son that's a classically trained opera singer. So there was music in my house all the time, and different languages. One of my sons is from China, and my other son is from Japan. And so they're trying to teach the younger boys what they need to do, and how to learn and how to understand a different language. And so it was always busy, always moving forward, but it was fun.
After five boys, have you ever sat down and said to yourself, I'm missing a girl?
No, not, not even. I wouldn't know what to do with a daughter. I have nieces, and I love when they come to visit, and I also love when they leave. Like,
Wow. I'm not even going to venture into why you're happy when they leave. I'm going to leave that right there. I'm going to leave that.
good idea.
Last year, you know, Good Morning America basically had over 2,000 entries for their Mother's Day breakfast in bed.
Hmm.
And you were chosen out of the 2,000 that were sent in. And I remember watching
Unbelievable.
it that day and was
Hmm.
blown away. Let's go back there for a quick moment. If you can, that day, what did it feel like when she came in, the lady from Good Morning America came in and
Hmm.
caught you by surprise?
I tell you, I didn't know what was happening. Because mind you, the mayor had been telling me for like weeks that she was having a very special meeting with me. I was still new to the department, and I was always really trying to impress my new boss. And I went to the grocery store that morning to get coffee and bagels and muffins and juices. And I was, my husband kept delaying me at home, saying, "Wait, I need you to pick out an outfit for me." I'm like, "For what? You're just going to work. I don't pick out your clothes like that." But he was trying to delay me because I guess they needed more time to get people into the firehouse, into the building. So I was very angry with him. I was angry with my kids because I wanted to impress my new boss. We're having a special meeting and I can't be late, and I wanted to set up the room so that she could have, treats in the morning. And so I raced into Hamden. I raced through Stop and Shop. I gather all these things. I bring them back to my office, and she comes in and she starts talking to me about whatever we were talking about, fixing up the new firehouse or fixing up the firehouse. So she said, "Well, let's go in the other room and take a look at what you're talking," because I was talking about fixing the cabinets and making sure the sink worked well and blah 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 blah. She said, "Well, let's go take a look at it," which is right next door. So I walked across to the firehouse, and a couple of guys were standing there, and I'm trying to show her the sink when this woman comes out of the clear blue sky that says, "You're on TV." And I'm like, "What TV? Like, what's going?" I had no no idea. I was just so, she told me she was going to New York City. So she comes out of the bathroom. Like, what? You're supposed to be in New York City. And sure enough, it was a total surprise that I was on TV as Mom of the Year on Good Morning America. It was
Mhm.
phenomenal. I was just like dumbstruck. I literally fell down the stairs going down into the firehouse, seeing all of my family and friends and folks that I've known for many, many years coming to be a part of that celebration. I'm just humbled, grateful to God, and like I love my kids, I love my family. I don't look for accolades. I'm a mom, you know, moms don't always get amazing surprises. We just do what we do in hopes that one day our children will just say, "You know what? My mom was okay," you know? But to have that, it was well beyond anything I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, that was super awesome. I'm going to invite folks to go to YouTube and look it up. The Mother's Day, Good Morning America Mother's Day Breakfast in Bed, and they can see all of it and catch up on it. It really was amazing. And one thing you forgot to mention, they brought in one of your favorite groups as well, Mary Mary.
I thought I died. I was like, what is going on? The Mary Mary came in. They sang to me. It was unbelievable. And I didn't even know where I was. I just, they were actually there live and in person. Unbelievable. Like, it just was so amazing. And the tears were flowing, and I just thought I was in a different place in the world. Like, I didn't know where I was. It was not the firehouse that I was used to coming to every morning for work. It was something totally different. And I was just so honored that they came, and they really enjoyed doing the surprise. They really enjoyed singing for me. It's just unbelievable. It was amazing.
That was sweet. That was sweet.
Yeah.
You know, our trails and our victories and our achievements glorify God. And that is part of the reason why we're happy here when Black Men Talk Through Up from the Ashes. And that's why Chief Shelley Carter is here. But before I get into that, I want to say this because it's been a couple of times you spoke of your husband. And I kind of want to put you on the spot here because I want to get you back to a segment that we do here called Story of Love. And I want to hear about you and Mr. Man. And if
Mm.
even if he doesn't show up, don't give me that now. Don't give me that even if he doesn't show up, I want to hear because love should be celebrated at all times. At all
Mm.
times. And that's what we want to
Yes.
do here. Yes.
Okay.
With that being said, I want to bring you back to when you were a little girl. Let's go back to, and I believe you said last time you was born in Philadelphia, PA.
Yes.
So let's go back there and start where this foundation for Chief Shelley Carter will start to be materialized.
Well, growing up in Philadelphia, living in the projects, my mom being a single mom, being a single parent, and making sure that, like I said, our faith was very important. That was the foundation that she brought us up on, and we needed to know who Jesus was, right? And so, and how do we do that? By knowing, loving our neighbors, and loving our friends, and treating people with respect, and acknowledging leadership, and understanding that there's a greater power. And so, it was all part of the base of who I am, and still is today. And so, growing up in Philadelphia, having fun with my sisters as a little girl, moving to Connecticut when my mom decided to leave Philadelphia and come up here and start a new life for us. It was very, very different. The culture was different. All my friends were not there. Uh, and so I just was like, I don't understand this move, but I'll go with the flow. And of course, my mom found a church here, and then, we got new friends, but I still missed home. Home has always been Philadelphia for me.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there. At what age were you when your mom moved to Connecticut? And just going back at that time in life, you came to Connecticut, like you said, it is different. What were you missing when you came to Connecticut?
Just family that I knew, family that knew who I was, knew my nicknames, knew my birthday, and just that whole moment of I I I don't know these new people. I mean, they were family here in Connecticut, but I didn't grow up around them. I was 9 years old. Um, Real funny story. We moved into a kind of a bad part of Hartford, but that's all my mother could afford. Um, and we moved, I believe it was like July 4th or something. We moved to Connecticut. And when we got to Connecticut, the weirdest thing happened. Like there was a police raid, like right next door to our
Hmm.
house. And I was like, where did my mother bring us? Like, what in the world? Shotguns, cops with shotguns and raids. And I was like, what in the world? This is like a war zone when Philadelphia, we didn't have a whole lot of grass, but it was concrete and sidewalks, and that was what I was used to. This thing, we had cops on our lawns with shotguns, was the strangest thing. But I again, as a little girl, you're going, I guess that we just have to trust my mom on this one. My sisters were not too happy with the move, but my mom knew what was best.
Okay.
And what was best is to get us out of the projects of Philadelphia and bring us into Hartford. And and she went back to school. She got her certification to become an accountant, and she got a job. And she went back to school and got her GED. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she
Wow.
was moving forward to make sure that she showed her daughters that they can be anything they want to be if they put their mind to it. You wonder where I get my tenacity from?
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's why I was just getting ready to go. I was going to go right there is because think about this for a second. If it's longer than a second, we'll do that as well.
Hmm.
Your mom, now you said sisters. I'm not sure how many were in the family that
My two sisters.
the two sisters, okay, that came to Connecticut. And, this is years ago as a single mother. I'm assuming, I'm not
Hmm.
sure, but I'm assuming she was a single mom with
Yep.
three girls that comes to Connecticut.
Yep.
And look at the foundation she laid for her daughters. Not only a foundation of home, but a foundation to elevate them throughout life.
Right.
Wow.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, making sure that she didn't just come here and get on public assistance. We used public assistance early on in our time in Connecticut, but my mom realized, which we are grateful for, like very happy, right? But
Hmm.
my mom realized that, wait, I don't want my kids to think that this is the only way of life for us. And so she worked multiple jobs. She, went back to school, multiple certification programs, and just showed us how we can. So my mother and my sister graduated the same week from high school.
Wow.
Like that, like that's amazing. You know what I'm saying? And I got
Yes.
to sit back and watch this as a teenager now, going, man, this is pretty cool. If she can do it, we can do it.
While working three jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Making
Uh,
sure, making sure we were on good foundation. Yes.
she did an amazing job, obviously.
Mm,
Amazing
I
job.
think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yes.
So in Connecticut at 9 years old,
Mhm.
after the shotguns and everything are taken off the
Right.
taken off the lawn,
Yeah.
I assume you start to settle in with school and friends here.
Yes. So it's I have the most amazing friends here in Connecticut and still back in Philadelphia, but I've been in Connecticut more time than I was in Philadelphia. And so my friends and family here are dear to me. I have my best friend, her name is Fran. We've been friends since probably more than 45 years. And she's here in Connecticut. She just recently moved to Charlotte. But, so my friends have now become my family here in Connecticut. And I'm grateful for all of them. They've all supported me and have been there for me and have pushed me when I felt like quitting. They're like, no, 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 you keep moving forward because I know you can.
Wow, it's the old saying about the village that it
Hmm.
takes to raise. And even coming from Philly, I mean, one thing too, it seemed like you were insulated with a great village, that was basically pushing you forward to be who you are.
Yes, that's very true. And we went to Philly for the summers, to visit my dad on the for the summer months and gave mom a break, right? So I still had that connection. And then we came back home to Connecticut, and education was top for my mom, and church was top for my mom. And so in going to church, and then going to, I am a graduate of Weaver High School. I was part of the drama team, and under the leadership of Mrs. Sharp, and she made sure that we were always public speaking, we were always on the stage, we were always being in charge of something, taking over projects and things at Weaver High School. Eventually, I kind of tapped into my ability to be a DJ. I didn't know I was going to be a DJ, but Weaver High School has a radio station, and at the WQTQ is where I learned how to be a DJ, and to talk on the radio, and to be in do interviews, conduct interviews and things like that. And it was wonderful. And so I really feel like that too is a part of my story as to how I became who I am now.
Wow. I would have never thought DJ.
I know, right? Right.
Yeah, I would have never thought DJ at all. But wow,
Mm-hmm.
that was my love for years as I aged when I was younger. So yeah, I can
Yeah, yeah.
imagine how that felt.
Yep.
Going back to your dad, I want to go back because you say you spent
Sure.
the summers with your father.
Yep.
How was that in the summertime, going back to Philly, spending some time with your father throughout the summer?
My dad, he was not tall in stature. I think he's about five, I want to say 5'9", 5'10", but he was a giant. He's passed away now. He's in heaven now, but he was a giant to me. He never raised his voice. He he never spoke out. I never saw an angry moment with my dad, like ever. I was just the baby girl, and so I was spoiled completely and totally rotten. My my sisters hated me, because I was like, I'm just going to tell dad. And so, but my father, who was also a boss, he worked for the federal government, and we used to go visit his office in downtown Philadelphia, and we would like visit the 30 something floor. It was like a super huge high rise building downtown Philadelphia. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, how do I get to do a job like this, you know? But yeah, he was a boss, and people respected him, and he would walk into a room and they would go, his nickname was Sweetie. I don't There's a whole another story about that.
Hmm.
Um so um but they would go, "Hey, sweetie, hi, sweetie," or "Hi, Mr. Perkins," and I would be like, "Wow, he's Mr. Perkins." To me, he was just dad, but he really held his own as a boss, and it was amazing to watch him. I never thought that that would be a part of who I am, is in my blood, right? And so I didn't see it back then. I understand it now,
Hmm. Yeah, you had no other choice, really. So, I mean, realistically, when you think about it, you were
right?
not given you other choice. Let's move to, you spoke of Weaver High and
Yes.
what went on there. Let's go to your life right after graduation of high school.
Sure. So I graduated from Weaver High School and went to Middlesex Community College. Now, I was the first in my family to graduate or go to college, in my immediate family. And I was told at Weaver High School by a guidance counselor that I should consider just doing like a CNA type training as opposed to going to college.
Hmm.
My grades were not all that good. I was probably lost half the time. I was always on stage or always in a radio station, so I really didn't pay attention to academics that much. And she was like, "Why don't you just like become a CNA or something?" I was like, I don't want to do that." And I wanted to be a news anchor. So Middlesex Community College had a um, a communications program that I found out about. I don't know how I found out about it. I applied, got in, and then I had to take the city bus from downtown Hartford to Middletown, Connecticut. And my ride on the city bus was about an hour and, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes one way. But I was determined to go to college. And I was in school and I learned about communications, and they had a television station there and a radio station there as well that I worked on as a student. And I was like, this is a career path that I really can sink my teeth into. It was comfortable for me. It felt right. So I graduated from there. Um, Again, the first to graduate, and was late to graduation. I was so mad,
Hmm.
because it took a long time to get to Middletown. But my mom and my dad were there, my sisters, and it was a celebration of finally the family is moving into the educational space. Now
Hmm.
it's only a 2-year degree, but it was what I needed to catapult me into where I am right now.
Nice. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, what turn did you take after the 2 year degree and graduating with your associates at that point?
What time did I take?
I'm sorry, what turn did you take in your life? So, after graduation
Oh,
from
okay,
college,
gotcha. Hmm.
what turn did your life take at that point?
Met my husband probably my last year of college, my first husband, and um, kind of wanted to go to a 4-year college, but I met my husband and could not see past him. Um, so
Whoa.
I decided to get married.
Hmm.
And my mom was like, maybe you should just hold on a minute. Maybe you should consider this. But, you know, in my story, it was a path that I needed to take. Um, my my plan was changed due to my husband at the time.
Okay.
But it was okay. I was in love. I married this amazing man and decided to get a job, get a full-time job.
Okay. So, if I'm hearing correctly, for love of of him in marriage, you walked away from the communication career and chose to do something different.
Yeah, well, I started working. I had a mall job. Then I decided to do some administrative assistant stuff. Realized that it wasn't what I really wanted in my life. And then I found a job as an optician, or an apprentice optician. So I decided that, hey, let's give that a try. And actually, I loved it. I started out as what do you call that? Like a switchboard operator, if you will.
Hmm.
And quickly learned that I could become a, a apprentice optician and learn how to work with the eye and work with the doctors. And so I thought it was kind of fun, and I had a great crew of folks that taught me everything there was to know about it. And I actually did that for almost 35 years.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hmm. I
You know,
just recently stopped I want to say within the last 10 years, I finally said, you know what, I can't do this part time anymore. I got way too much going on in my life.
wow. You know what I'm noticing too as we move through is that you tend to, when you move from, even as a child, it seems like you move from one space to the next. You make it home, you make it comfortable, you
Hmm.
apply yourself, and you really just fit in.
I think the best thing my mom could have done for us, I think I've said this before, is to move us from Philadelphia to Connecticut. It really made me adaptable. My mom came to Connecticut, we joined a church, and then she started her own church, and building helping her to build her church as a young woman um also made me adaptable. And I think my personality in and of itself is the ability to kind of adjust to wherever I am in that moment, and to try to embed myself in that culture, to try to understand the differences of people, their mindsets, not to hold judgment, but to say, okay, why do you think like that? Why do you do this? Why do you eat that type of food? Like, I'm always curious about things. So I believe that process of moving from Philadelphia, leaving my home, coming to Connecticut, being the different child at school, going through, being on the radio, trying different things at Weaver High School. Then, going to college, and college was predominantly a white college, and so like looking at the different cultures. My best friend in college was a gay man, which in my religious belief was like, oh my God, old school was you would never really hang out with a gay man, but he was my best friend. And so, and my mom he was at my house, and he would come to church with us. So, you know what I mean? Just a matter of just, okay, we accept people where they are and who they are, and learn from that. And I think that's kind of who I've been forever, and it's just molded me into that type of person.
Such a zest for life. Going back to after college now, and you're
Hmm.
working in that employment that you gained. That I'm still trying to put in my head. Fire chief, and for all these years you're working, you're working part time. I and then
Right?
yeah, I think some of us has 24 hours a day. I think you have 34 hours a day. I'm just gonna
That's what they tell me. That's what
you
they tell me.
you must have 34. But
Right.
realistically, when going back there at that time in your life, doing that, being married, did at some point, I remember you speaking of a child. When did you give birth to a child?
So I was 25 when I had Miles, and I was thrilled. I was thrilled to be, first of all, it was a boy. And I was like, yes, I wanted a boy. Like, I really always wanted that boy. Didn't really, he wasn't the plan. We wanted to wait a few more years. We had been married for 2 years, and we wanted to wait. I was 25, I was still kind of young, but God had a plan, right? And so Miles came into my life, and just all the love that I had for life, I poured into him. So he has been singing since he was probably about 2 years old. I used to sing. Remember, I told you I performed at Weaver High School all the time, always on stage, always doing performances. And so I used to sing with my sisters, sing at church. So I started singing to this little baby, in my womb, and I believe he heard me because he came out singing.
Hmm.
I don't sing anymore, but not like that. But it just was something that connected us, and he loves to sing. He loves to move. He loves rhythm and sound, and he's wonderful. And so I I love being his mom.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
20. Yeah, 25 is your age. You became a mom for the first time.
Yes.
Okay, and he came out singing. As we
Yes.
start to move forward from
Yep.
there, how do things start to progress in your life?
So Miles's dad had a difficult time with me being a strong woman, I'm gonna say. And so, religious background, a lot of back then, I guess, was that whole submissive thing, which I think for the most part I can be if I need to be. But in the meantime, we're moving forward and building a family, and there's no set roles. You know what I mean? In my mind, there are no set roles. If we're gonna clean up, we're all gonna clean up. If we're gonna cook, we're all gonna cook. You know, and if we're gonna work, we're all gonna work. And so, uh, looking into the fire service was like, oh, absolutely not, for his dad. And so at that point, I knew that our marriage had some struggles, and I didn't know kind of what to do with it. I was young. I was in ministry. I had young people following me, and like, I didn't want to cause them to turn away from the church because of our struggle. So we lived in that struggle for many, 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 many years. Um, but the fire service came along right about when the time that Miles was about 3 years old, pushing my son down the street. He saw the fire truck, and the gentleman that was on the ramp told me about taking the test. Now, mind you, I wasn't looking, not at all looking for the fire department, not at all. I was looking for just something to do, with my time. And he told me about the fire department. I went home and I told him, I said, hey, this guy told me about this fire thing. And he said, "You never passed the test." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And so now you've challenged me. Now, I'm not big on challenges like that, but I just was like, well, let me try it. And so I tried it. It just really was not ever in my purview, but the challenge was the challenge. And I took him on the challenge. And not to prove him wrong. I just was like, wait, I know that I can do this. And I think that's my mom, you know. I think my mom kind of rose up at me and said, "Hey, you I didn't finish high school, but I graduated with your sister. You can do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it." And
Hmm.
so I took the test, passed the test, got hired on the department, and my life kind of was a little strange after that, because at the time my husband did not think that that was a good career choice for me. He wanted me to be maybe in an administrative role. Was it for the fear of how dangerous the job was? I can't say that that's the truth, but I knew that my son needed a good foundation. I knew that my son needed to eat, and that he was my responsibility. And I needed to make sure that he was well taken care of. And this fire department health insurance and benefits and pay was going to keep me stable because my marriage was unstable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It sounded like there was some competitiveness there within itself that
hmm
was kind of underneath the scene there. After getting hired by the fire department, how much longer were you married?
So, very strange story, but we were married for 15 years. I divorced in 2007, I believe. And so I joined the department in 1999. Um, so however long that is, was it like 15 years or so?
Yeah.
Um, maybe 2000, 2005. I don't know. So this is the thing. I divorced him after I had a second son. So my second son was Malcolm, is Malcolm. And my Malcolm was, I wanted Miles to have a brother. And Malcolm just, decided to surprise us a little bit. But he was exactly what Miles needed. Miles needed a Malcolm. Because Miles was this little boy with all of this energy, and he needed somebody that he could hold on to, because mom was working. Dad was not too happy with mom working, right? And I needed to make sure Miles was good. And so Malcolm came along to be the joy of our family now. Their dad loves them very much. Their dad loves them. Don't get it twisted. He loves his boys. But our situation as mom and dad were wasn't working for us as the adults in the room. So in my mind, being the hovering mom, it was necessary to make sure Miles was good, and now I needed to make sure Malcolm was good. So I ended up buying another house for my mother, because I remember being a little girl saying, "Mommy, if I ever have a really good job, I'm going to buy you a house." And so one day I bought her a house in Hartford, and I ended up having to move in with her with my two boys, and we made it work for the few years that I was there. And it was wonderful because she was able to help me raise my boys, and they have a really strong relationship right now today because of it.
Family is a beautiful thing.
hmm
If you don't mind, I would like to ask, when did you know to basically, after the second son was born, when did you know at that point to move on?
Um, it was Malcolm was a baby. I think he was less than a year old, or maybe about a year old when he was less than a year old. When my mother had seen the stress and struggle that I was under with my first marriage. I remember going to the house that I had just bought, and she hadn't even moved in the furniture yet, really. And I went there. I had done some painting and some carpeting and stuff for her, and I she was taking Miles to church with her. It was New Year's Eve night. And I said, Mom, I'm just going to lay down here on the floor with the baby. You could take Miles with you to church. And I'm just going to lay down here for a little while. And I'll get up later to go to church. Well, the next thing I knew, she was coming in the house from church. It was probably about 2 in the morning. And I woke up. I was like, oh, I got to get ready for church. And she goes, what? Where were you? I says, I think I slept the whole time. She says, it was the first time you got a good night's sleep in how long? And she said, how long are you going to carry this burden that you don't need to carry anymore? You have 2 children and you are where this burden is wearing you down. And I think that was the moment. Miles was 7 and Malcolm was about a year old or a little under a year old. And that was when I knew that it was time for me to kind of move forward. Um, yeah. So it was sad. I did not want to break up my family, but my ex-husband and I realized that this was not something that was working well for us. I would say, and just to be completely transparent, it was probably me moving away simply because this career and my children was all I had. I did not have his full appreciation of who I was. And it will wear me down. It wore me down. And so um, I needed to make a decision. The decision was, do I keep my mental health? Do I keep my physical health because I had begun to get sick? Um, and do I take care of these little boys that need me? Where on the other hand, he was doing his own thing. Um, like I said, he loves his children, but he was doing his own thing because our marriage wasn't where it needed to be. And so he moved on, and so did I.
Hmm. I said earlier, fortitude, the strength of mind that allows one to endure hardship, pain, and adversity. It's When Black Men Talk. Mark Elliott, along with the Fire Chief Shelley Carter. I want to thank you for opening up and sharing, because sometimes it's not easy to do such, but I believe it's good for our soul to do such.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I love about opening up and sharing and not afraid to being vulnerable, you never know who is resonating with. And our stories in our lives can basically inspire, it can encourage, it can make other people think. So I appreciate that you're taking the time out of your busy schedule and I'm sharing with us. I really do.
Sure, no problem.
Now, back with the home with your mom. And I'm going to tell you something too, man. I never met your mother. I saw her the day that you got sworn in on television. Actually, I saw her during the Good Morning America segment. But how can I not love that woman? And I don't mean that woman in a bad way, but just hearing about your mother, the things that, her life, what she's done for you, how she was there for you. And a lot of times being a parent, you gotta, with your children, you gotta know when to say something and where to say it. And sometimes you can feel something and don't say it. But her timing for what she said to you and what she said to you, man, was perfect. So I want to go back to that moment, that time of life where basically you bought the home, your mom moved in, and she was there with you, I think you said for 2 years.
So I was kind of beat up from being in a marriage situation way longer than I should have been, right? And so my body was kind of beat up. I was, still working full time, still, taking care of my children, making sure my boys were good with like daycare and school. I needed to check Miles because Miles was missing his dad a lot. And it was very hard for him initially to adjust, as it should be, because he was home with his father. But I took on the task of making sure that he was mentally and physically strong. And so with that being said, it was a lot of work for Shelley, and all while trying to make sure that I come home to them, because my job is extremely dangerous. And having a clear mind was was kind of hard back then because I had two little boys that wanted their dad, trying to work out visitation and things with him, going to church, trying to keep my head above water financially. It just was a lot. And so I do believe that especially Miles, he saw me struggle in that, and he all he wanted to do was protect me, um, and and his little brother. And so, you know, I don't know how much of the responsibility, like it forced him to grow up kind of quicker than should have. I guess he should have, but I did not place responsibility on him, but not intentionally, but I probably did. Like, go get Malcolm's bottle, or go, go make sure you clean up after Malcolm, as opposed, because I didn't have another adult in the space outside of my mom, who was there. But it was the three of us against the world at that point, and so it was a lot, and it took its toll on my mental health, my physical health, and I had to really kind of pull it together and just really rely heavily on family, friends. My best friend Fran that I spoke about, like, she was there for babysitting and making meals, and making sure the boys got picked up or dropped off. My sisters were there. My sister Vanessa was there, like, and my mom. But the brunt of the responsibility fell on me as the parent, as their guardian parent. And so it was a lot, but I relied heavily on my family, my friends, and of course God, and just trying to keep a normal life for these two little boys as best I could as a firefighter.
Yeah, again, the village, basically, the importance of the village, and it's a lot was going on. But when we think about a lot that was going on, I see the village. Part of me I'm thinking that that's probably what's really kind of missing in our current day life, because we don't have much of that anymore. We don't really have the family kind of contributing and kind of being part of it, and kind of solidifying and taking off the rough edges, which back in the day, that's just what family did. They weren't asked to, they just stepped up and did. Yeah, so beautiful thing, beautiful thing. Let's move forward just a little bit, because there was a period of time that after things, I assume, kind of settled down. I'm still amazed with everything that's going on, the part-time job, the new home. I mean, the second child, how you getting all this done is beyond me. Like I said before, I'm still, we could do a show on that itself, but I'm still amazed how that you're pulling all this together. That's miraculous to say itself. But at some point, you're moving forward and you find love again.
Yeah, so that part, right? Like, I met my husband at the Hartford Fire Department. I did not work at the Hartford Fire Department to find a husband. Like, that was not my thing. And I had often said that firefighters, I wouldn't date any firefighters, like, because I know them for real. And so I was like, not really interested in that. But for some strange reason, this man, who, as a firefighter, was very protective of me. So whenever there was a call, when there was a situation where there was an officer that did not want me to be in charge or did not want me on the nozzle as a firefighter, but it was my rotation to have that job function or that task. Sometimes the officer, my radio's gonna start talking. Hold on.
That's fine.
I just don't want it to go over the air, whatever it is.
Attention Industry Rescue 2. Response to Dunbar residents. 135 Putnam Ave. That's 135 Putnam Ave. For the 67-year-old female fall.
Let me step outside of my car.
Map 19,
I'm sorry.
No need to apologize for that. Like I said, you get it done. I mean, they got to come up with a new word for multitasking for you, because multitask just doesn't cover it. It just doesn't cover it.
She's going to talk again.
That's fine. Please, pay that no attention. I'm not paying any attention. Go on, please.
So can I talk over it? Or
that's fine. Yeah, your choice. Yes,
I wasn't sure. Okay, so with my mom, with this man who came into the fire department, firehouse that I was working in, he was very protective of me, to the point of saying, listen, she's here to do a job. You all are acting like she's fragile. She's been here for some years and you won't give her a chance. And that's not fair. And I think it was because he didn't want to do the job. Like I think he was like, look, I'm not going to do double, and she gonna be sitting there just minding to like twiddling her thumbs.
Oh
She's a
my.
firefighter, so let her do the job. And so no one had ever really stood up for me like that in the firehouse. I was like, oh, you don't care that I'm going to have the nozzle at this next structure fire? And he didn't care. Like, he was like, you're here to do a job, do the job.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I met him prior to me getting divorced, and he spent a lot of time. Hold on one second. Okay, so he spent some time with my boys because I used to have to bring my boys to the firehouse in order for me to get to work on time. And so once my firefighter brothers realized that I was running late all the time simply because I didn't have I didn't have daycare that's opened up at 8:00 in the morning. I had to be to work at 7.
Do we have an apartment number?
And so because I had to be to work at 7, I would be running late, and you can't be late at the fire department. And so the guys were like, yo, you can't be late. You got to get here on time because we got to, do changeover.
Rescue 2 responding.
So I was like,
Rescue 2 responded.
I need someone to take care of my kids. And they were like, well, bring them to the firehouse. Do something because you're going to be late, and we don't want you to be in trouble because AWOL is AWOL. And that's called absent without leave. And so I was like, okay. So I bring them to the firehouse. The guys would cook breakfast for them. And then
nice.
I would have a friend or my nephew Leslie would come and get the boys, take them to daycare, take them to school, and then I was able to do my job. And this man was like really like looking out for my boys, making sure I was on time for work, making sure the boys got where they needed to be. They were calling him Uncle B, and it was just he was looking out. There was nothing. No relationship, nothing in that process. He just was like, this is a firefighter that needs our help. And so my brother firefighters helped.
I'm going to stop that part of it right there with him because I want to save that when we do Story of Love. And you just set the foundation for that. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Absolutely beautiful. And I love the fact that the other firefighters said, yeah, bring your kids here, bring your sons here. And they all chipped in. And again, when Fire Chief Shelley Carter goes somewhere, things just fall into place. And they don't fall into place as when I'm thinking about it, just because they fall into place. God puts them into place. He has put them into place for you. And that's what I love about doing Up from the Ashes, because it shows how he moves us from one point to the other. And realistically, in doing such, we glorify what he has done. But I want to, before we stop this, I want to go back because you made a comment about the danger. And through both conversations I have with you, we really didn't kind of veer into that too much. And I think I don't want that to be taken for granted, because with everything that you was going through, you still showed up to do an extremely dangerous job night in and night out. And that deserved to be commended, because a lot of people in that situation would have looked at what they were facing, what was going on, and just basically threw their hands up and said, I couldn't do it. Let's go do something else. Right. And not to mention, you was working part-time somewhere else. All this is going on. Right. So I want to just spend, as we start to wind this down, a little bit right there in the fear factor, because I couldn't even imagine with everything else that was going on that you spoke of and dealing with that coming to work.
Yeah, it was now that I think about it, it's a little mind-blowing, but it was hard. Like, my life back then was really, really, really difficult. But I was in this career, and remember, I had taken the challenge from my husband initially, my first husband. And it was necessary for me to show my children and to show these firefighters, like, I know they didn't know I had a lot going on. They knew some, but not all, right? But I still had a job to do. I was part of a team. And if I did not show up for work, the part of that team would be missing. And they didn't care, for the most part, that I had all these struggles. I'm still part of the team, and so firefighting is a team sport, and my part is coming to work and making sure I do my part of the job. And they cared about making sure I got there and making sure my kids were good, but at the end of the day, when it was time for me to do my job, it was like, okay, the kids are safe. We're not worried that the kids are unsafe, but you still have a lot to do, and we need you to do it, and we need you to be clear-minded about it. And I took that seriously. I really took that seriously because I didn't want to let those guys down. They were my brothers. They were my friends, and I wanted to be the best I could for the community of Hartford, and I wanted to be the best I could for my team.
After doing this episode, there's no surprise you are where you are based on who you are and what was provided to you. A person that maintains composure and resists fear. Tell me that doesn't speak you. Tell me that realistically, faced with difficult situation, tell me that doesn't that's not in your wellhouse. Tell me and I'll tell you, as my grandmother would say to me years ago. You tell me and I'll tell you. And I am basically just happy to be able to have conversation with you. I am thrilled and excited because a lot of times we look at people that do things that ain't about beans. We get excited about them and we look at them and they think they're all about something and they're really about nothing. Mm-hmm. And to hear about what you've done, we'll hear about what you've been through, to me, pales in comparison. It speaks volumes.
Well, my struggle was my struggle, right? My struggle needed to prepare me for who I am today. Everybody's struggle, whatever that is necessary for them to either persevere or for them to pull back. I chose to persevere. And I knew that there was something greater, although it took a heck of a time to get there. There was not a moment in that process where I did not know that God was not with me. Like I knew the entire time that God was with me. And so I used to say, hey, you want to get up off of me? Like, get this thing up off of me. But if I had gone through half of what I had gone through back then, I would not be where I am right now. And so the process is real, and the struggle mirrors the victory, right? So
Absolutely.
the struggle is necessary to gain the victory. And if you quit in the middle of that process, you'll never reach the full potential that God has for you. And so, did I want to quit multiple times? I mean, yeah. Did I think that I could be doing something a whole lot easier? Yeah. But I knew that the path that I was on was leading to something greater. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know it was fire chief. I didn't know it was first Black female fire chief in New England. I didn't know that back then. I just knew there was something greater.
Wow. Fire Chief Shelley Carter. Yeah, I look forward to coming back and doing the story of love. I'm glad you kind of set the foundation by basically grabbing that hose and working that nozzle years ago. You set the foundation for this. So I appreciate you coming back. I look forward to the next time. Yeah. I know God's going to continue to bless you, and thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor for me to share my story, to encourage someone to keep moving forward.
Appreciate it. We'll do it again soon. In the meantime, God loves you. We love you too. Take care of yourself.
Take care.